Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Gottschall. I'm your Lower Paxton Township Manager. And in typical fashion, I give a brief summary of this evening's meeting, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching on television at home. Under new business, the board will take formal action to appoint a supervisor to fulfill the remainder of an unexpired term on the board created by the resignation of Mr. Chrisman. Next, the board will take action to authorize the execution of a subsidy agreement with the Lower Paxton Township Authority for the refinancing of 2014 and 2016 general obligation bonds. After this, the board will take up consideration of Resolution 20-25, amending the township's right-to-know policy, adding an open records officer for the police department. And finally, before adjourning, the board will move to approve improvement guarantees and pay township and authority bills. With all that said, members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. I'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Supervisor Zumas will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will move to approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 7th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the meeting minutes for July 7th during our business meeting.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. With that, we will move on to public comment. Public comment is for any item that is not on the agenda tonight. If anyone would like to speak to an item on the agenda, you will be afforded time at that point to speak. So would anybody like to address the board on an item not on the agenda this evening? If so, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Yes. Under Chairman and board member comments. Yes, sir.
My name is Mike DeCavalcanti. I live in Camp Hill, 2024 Market Street. I grew up here. I went to Central Dauphin. I graduated in '83. I happen to also own the Climbnasium, and over the years, the Friendship Center folks, over 20 years, would ask me to come in there and consider doing a bid to build a wall. And of course, here in the last couple of years, we did. We built that wall. That's the climbing wall in the Friendship Center right now. Not one of a unique group, one of a giant group of fitness facilities that have built climbing walls. You see them in California and Colorado, throughout the West, and Pennsylvania tends to be a little later as these trends move east, but in this particular case, the facility did jump ahead, and anybody that's been there on most nights saw that it was pretty booming prior to the COVID. And of course, I know that because I taught the classes there, and I was there with all the folks that were pumped up there climbing. And as a result, I worked at the Friendship Center for those times. So the point of my coming up here is to say, I just want to let everyone know that climbing walls are fitness of the future. It's a way trust gets built between parents and their kids. It's a way they can have an integrative type of fitness, not just where the kid goes to daycare and the parents lifting weights, but everyone's together. When we did the Lower Paxton Police Department gig there, everyone felt that vibe. It was pretty cool because the police officers came in their full gear and they got full respect. That was really cool. Anyone that was there that day really felt the vibe of how awesome that was. And the police climbed the hard routes with their uniforms on and about 40 pounds of stuff. I own a not-for-profit called Above Limits. I teach folks in wheelchairs how to climb. I've been doing that for 20 years. That's folks who have spina bifida when they're born, or it could be even someone in the military that's had something going on. And I travel all around the country to do this, and we have done these gigs at the Friendship Center because the Friendship Center's climbing wall is adaptive. All the anchors are overhanging. That means anyone who's in a wheelchair can go there and climb. And so those gigs we've done where we have folks in wheelchairs climbing, like those where we have police, it shows you another side of climbing that's pretty awesome. And then lastly, I know that the Friendship Center is a great value for those folks in the neighborhood, in the township that are single parents or are parents with their spouse deployed abroad, and they end up having to behave like single parents financially and emotionally because all the kids are there with them. And when you have a place like the Friendship Center where they can come over and climb, and also specifically about the finances of Friendship Center, to say that someone who's on SNAP, a young lady on SNAP or a young man on SNAP that has 4 kids, they can come to the Friendship Center and get a full membership monthly for $27.33. $27.33 for someone in your township to have a health club membership with free daycare. And if you follow what's going on in our country and you want to do what's right for everybody, we want some free daycare at the little local indoor park called the Friendship Center for $26 a month for someone whose spouse is either overseas or dead or in jail or whatever it is. And so lastly, I just want to bring to your attention what little I know about the finances of the Friendship Center. I want to say that if it brings in $1.5 million and it spends these numbers are made up, $1.7 million, it would be 200 in the hole in cash. If you do a little bit of accounting, you might say it's 100 in the hole per year, 100,000 in the hole per year in cash. And now we're going to compare that to the budget of the Lower Paxton Township, and that would mean that the Friendship Center costs less than 1% of your total budget for all the stuff I just said that it does that's really cool, including the climbing wall, which is super forward, and for folks with disabilities. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Those numbers, by the way, would be completely and totally inaccurate.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I happen to have gone to MIT.
Do we have the ability to put this up on the screen, did you say? I'm not quite sure where the tab is. To indicate, and I regret that numbers that I have given in the past were inaccurate. I believe I had suggested we were spending approximately $700,000 a year on the Friendship Center, and it's now, what, 800? The average over the 20 years was over $800,000 a year. And if anybody wants, I guess we can't get it up on the screen right away, but we have a graph which shows exactly what's been happening with the finances. It is available on the township's website. And as you can see, the expenses have been growing exponentially, and the revenue has been dropping exponentially. Can we get it?
I can actually go to this site.
We can actually go to.
No porno sites.
For the public, when you go to the website, go under Parks and Recreation Friendship Center, and that's where you'll find it.
This graph shows expenditures over the past 20 years. The blue lines, the blue portions of the graph are grant money that came in. Mic went off? Oh, okay. The blue portions are grant money that came in, which, as you can see, there was some initially whenever the center was put together, but has really not been a factor in recent years. The red lines are the expenditures from the general fund, taxpayer dollars, on the Friendship Center, and you can see what's happening with the expenditure of taxpayer dollars. And the green line would be cash on hand generated by the Friendship Center. Both lines moving in dramatically different directions. I will first of all give credit to Mr. Gottschall in our finance department for having spent an enormous amount of time going through township finances for the last 20 years to dig out all of the actual expenses, and there is a detailed sheet also on the township website that details those expenses by year. Overall, $18.6 million, I believe, is the correct figure. $18.6 million in township taxpayer money has gone to the Friendship Center over the past 20 years. So while a family might be able to join for $27 a year, Lower Paxton Township taxpayers are paying an average of over $800,000 a year for that facility. It is, as we have mentioned, an unsustainable course, and given financial constraints brought on by COVID, have made it even more so. So the center closed because of state order under COVID. We have not reopened it. Even the Y has only had about a 20% return of their business. So only having a 20% return of business to the Friendship Center would dramatically increase the amount of red ink at that place. So it is closed. It will remain closed for the foreseeable future as we sort out the exact degree of financial pain that we will suffer due to the loss of revenue from COVID. But as this graph illustrates, the business model of the Friendship Center has completely failed and is not sustainable going forward, which is why we have entered into discussions with the very patriotic. That's why we have entered into discussions with the Harrisburg Area YMCA to talk about leasing the facility and having them take over operations. We are making significant progress on that leasing arrangement, and it is our goal to bring that to the public at the workshop meeting of this Board of Supervisors in October and potentially adopt the agreement, the lease agreement.
You just want us to stand, don't you, Dan?
With the goal of potentially approving the lease agreement at the business meeting, the second business meeting in October. You may slide to November, but we're working real hard to try to get this wrapped up by October in the hopes of actually being able to reopen the center sooner rather than later. So that's the financial numbers, and as I said, they are available on our website. And Mr. Judd, do you want to explain again where on the website folks can find the numbers?
Go to our Parks and Recreation /Friendship Center, and that'll be right at the top of the page. In addition to the information that Mr. Henry gave you, you'll see a note of warning from our Moody's rating service that Friendship Center's use of general funds is concerning to them, and that was one of the dangers as far as one of the risk factors in harming our rating, our bond rating, which affects our ability to borrow money, and by us I mean township taxpayers, borrow money at a good rate. So it's getting serious. That one really gets your attention. So you can check that out as well.
Okay, Sandra.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors. I'll take this off.
Oh, thank you.
Sandy Prawl, 1001 Homestead Avenue. I did not know the Friendship Center would be on the agenda tonight. I was here.
It is not on the agenda tonight. I was responding to a public comment.
I would like to beg to differ with some of the figures that I've read that you've publicized. I don't have a CPA tonight, and I'm not a CPA, but I've had CPAs look at the numbers, and they disagree. And I also disagree with knowing, since I know there have been contributions made to the center. There has been fundraising that was not reported, contributions not reported. So I don't think the numbers are totally accurate, but we'll get into that another time. I have a question for Mr. Gutschall. I understand, Brad, that there's an agreement between the Y and the township for the Y to use the center for some educational classes for children that would be using computers for virtual learning. I'd like to know about that agreement, and I'd like to know why the Y can use the community center when the residents, the taxpayers, the people who belong to the center and have paid for it are not able to use it.
Actually, I will answer that question, and I'm glad you brought up the point. The YMCA approached the township. There is a critical need in our community, and by the way, this is one of the advantages to having the YMCA involved in this center. There is a critical need in our community for daycare. Because of COVID, as you may know, a number of the school districts are having like a hybrid system where the students are in school a couple days a week and not in school other days a week. And this has posed a problem for many parents who have to work and therefore aren't able to be home to care for their children. So the YMCA has worked with the Central Dauphin School District and with us. They've opened, I believe, 9 centers in the Central Dauphin School District to provide daycare for students while we are in this situation where we have the hybrid arrangement with the schools. Hopefully all goes well over the next few months and they'll be able to return to full-time in-person instruction, but that remains to be seen. This is a case of there being a urgent community need and the Y stepping forward to fulfill it. And yes, we made the gymnasium available in order to accommodate the Y to provide that vital service to parents in our township.
But we could have done that.
No, we could not have done that because you have to have a whole wide array of insurances and various certifications, background checks, etc. This is not something we could have done, not in that amount of time, to move that nimbly to address the need.
Well, now, since the center will be open, are the residents going to be able to use it?
No. The center is not open. We're using the gymnasium. The YMCA is using the gymnasium to provide daycare services. Let me make it as clear as I can since I have made it as... Sandra, I have made this as clear as possible for months now. We are not reopening the center under the current set of circumstances. Period. It's not going to happen. And frankly, if you ever wanted to reopen, you should hope that we're able to make an agreement with the YMCA. Because if that fails, there is no plan B. We are not going back to the business model that created this sort of a financial problem for the township. As much as you may want it, it is not going to happen. Period.
I understand, but I will tell you that your figures are not accurate.
They are absolutely accurate. We have had Mr. Godshall and our entire finance department comb through the finances of this township extensively for the past 20 years, and they have come up with the figures. Now, you can put out all the disinformation that you wish, since you do not have access to it. You can put out all the disinformation you wish, but that is not going to change the facts. And the bottom line fact is we do not have the money to continue doing what we have been doing, period. Not without a substantial property tax increase, which I can assure you this board is not going to do, at least in order to reopen the Friendship Center.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board on a matter not on the agenda? Mr. Murphy.
It is the first meeting of the month.
Yes, sir.
And basically, things have changed. We can no longer have our meetings the way we had them in the past. In the month before last, in the July meeting, we actually had it at Heroes Grove. It was very successful. This month, we're going to try and have a meeting. It is downsized. We won't be having it in this room. We're going to be having it next door in the 2 meeting rooms that open up to a little bit larger room, so we can have social distancing. We also have asked everybody attending the meeting to wear masks. We're going to have 3 separate presentations. The first presentation, which we've been advertising, is about the tower that stood during World War II on North Mountain Road above the cemetery where the Lutheran Church is now, that watched all the military planes that flew over this area. The next presentation will be about the, just ran a total blank, Bill, the next, Crumbs Mill. And we're going to be talking about the Crumbs Mill area and what the original history of Crumbs Mill was. And these will be about 15 minutes apart. And the third one will be one about the first developments of Lower Paxton Township, back when it was Paxton Township, all the ways up to the World War I. A lot of people don't realize how many developments were in this area prior to World War I. And it will tell about how they got started. And they all have one thing in common. But being that we always leave a secret for you to come to the meeting and learn what that one thing is, then we will do that at our meeting. It will be at 6:30. To get to the meeting, the people go all the ways down the entrance hall, turn to the left, and then immediately to the right, and we'll have the large room open with seating spread out like it is in here. And that will be our first meeting back in the building since March.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's Thursday, correct?
Thursday at 6:30.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Ashley Pollard. I live at 4925 Colorado Avenue. I'm here to continue advocating for changes to the ordinances 403D2 and 403D12 around the keeping of hens and backyard bees. At the last meeting we were at on August 7th, there were some questions around the ordinances of surrounding municipalities. So we just did some research around 8 surrounding municipalities and just wanted to present that to you. So we looked at the ordinances, of course, of hens and of beekeeping in Derry Township, Hummelstown, Swatara, Susquehanna Township, Harrisburg City, Mechanicsburg, Steelton, and Duncannon. Out of those 8, not one had any ordinances pertaining to beekeeping whatsoever. No restrictions barely mentioned, except in the definitions area. That was it. And then for the keeping of hens, most, I would say, 50% of the ordinances were that the hens could not go on anyone else's property or run amok in the public. But otherwise, Susquehanna Township had the most restrictive of being small animals shall be kept confined in quarters, no part of which shall be closer than 25 feet from the exterior limit of any dwelling or any property line. So we just put them, and then 3 of the mentioned municipalities had no ordinances on the keeping of hens. So I had emailed that to Bradley today, and then there's links to all the ordinances, but hopefully that'll be helpful during the ordinance rewrite and we can get them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We are about to embark on a comprehensive, what's the appropriate word? Review, redesign of our zoning map. It was something that's been in the budget for a couple of years. It got delayed again because of COVID. But our plan is to move into the zoning map redesign certainly by early next year. We really do need to get it done.
Thank
Maybe
you.
sooner, perhaps. Anybody else like to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, We'll move to chairman and board member comments. Supervisor Lindsay is on the phone. Are we able to talk with Supervisor Lindsay?
Mrs. Lindsay?
I'm here.
Supervisor Lindsay, would you like to make comments as to why you are with us by phone?
Yes, I'm with you by phone because last week my husband and I were informed the week before that we got exposed to COVID by friends. We were outside with them, but one of them got it. So by the health rules, we are quarantining until Thursday. So that's why I am by phone.
And Mr. Solicitor, it is appropriate and permissive for us to have the supervisor participate by phone?
It is.
Thank you very much. So board members, any comments?
It's like she never left.
Mrs. Lindsay, any comments other than that?
I'm good.
Okay, very good. Manager's report, Mr. Godshall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I only have one item this evening, and it's my favorite topic, which is that of the census. As of last Thursday, the township self-response rate has increased to now 76%, keeping the township as the 9th highest response rate in the county, and actually more importantly, putting us within striking distance of our 2010 response rate. The top response rates of the county continue to shift between, I believe, Washington. Is there a Washington Township? Washington Township. I'm still learning my Dauphin geography here, but Dauphin, Washington Township, and the Hanovers. But again, just to add a bit of context to the situation, our 2010 self-response rate was 77.3, so we are rapidly approaching that figure. With this report also, the county's response rate was very close to the 2010 rate as well, within 5%, so the county's doing very well. And even larger than that, Dauphin County and Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth, generally maintain very strong response rates thus far as we continue to head to the self-response rate deadline, which is September 30th. So I ask residents to continue to fill out those reports as they receive them and get us to our goal and beyond that.
We very much urge people, if you have not responded, to do so. A wide range of items, including federal grants and other funding, depends on the accuracy of those numbers. So we want all of our residents to be counted. We have no old business. We have before us a number of items of new business, the first item of which, as we had announced a couple of weeks ago, Supervisor Gary Chrisman resigned from the board. His term of office runs through December 31st of 2021. Therefore, it is the responsibility of this board to appoint a replacement supervisor to serve on the Board of Supervisors and complete the unexpired term of Mr. Chrisman. We had a number of applicants, 5, I believe, were the total, of people who were interested. I'm very pleased that there was a very high caliber of quality of the individuals who did apply for the board, and it was very satisfying to see the interest. I know most of us talked with at least most, if not all, of those individuals who had applied. And we found folks who really are interested in serving our community. So overall, it was a very optimistic and positive experience. However, we do have to select one individual. So I will open the floor for a nomination of an individual to be appointed to the unexpired term of Gary Chrisman. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Paul Navarro to the vacancy on the Board of Supervisors created by the resignation of Gary Chrisman.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Would anybody like to elaborate on the qualifications of Mr. Navarro, or do we want to let?
Well, I think we should a little bit, let the folks know what we know about him. Like the chairman said, we got some great applications, several of whom I know through community service, if not personally. And I was very impressed, and that makes me feel good about our township, frankly. I did not know Mr. Navarro. I had to get to know him. I had to question him, quiz him. He comes to us from the healthcare field. He's a business owner. He's a father, husband. In the past, has served as a Paxtonia firefighter and an EMT with South Central, our community health, our public safety providers. Comes from a well-respected family. I love the story of his grandfather, an immigrant from Mexico, who came here and started a business and, important to me, grew to love and respect his country and handed that down to his grandson. I was really impressed with his knowledge of township operations. He owns properties, so he knows a lot about land use, which is a high percentage of what we do here and what we need to know, all the stormwater stuff and everything else. I was very impressed. I was also impressed with his eagerness to come up to speed on maybe some of the things that the average person or even property owner needs to brush up on. So just a well-respected man, well-respected family, knowledgeable, committed to the township, to the community, and I feel very good, like I said, with the whole field of applicants, and I feel very good nominating Mr. Navarro for this position.
I'm impressed that Chris remembered all that stuff.
Yeah, Chris, that was good.
Hey, it's an impressive resume, and he's an impressive young man.
Are there any other nominations for the position? Are there any other nominations for the position? Hearing none, it has been moved and seconded that we appoint Paul Navarro to the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors. Would we proceed with a roll call vote on the motion, please?
Mr. Zumis,
Aye.
Mr. Judd,
Aye.
Mrs. Lindsay, and Mr. Henry.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, and congratulations, Mr. Navarro. If you would like to come up to the podium so folks can see you, we have a vast television audience.
Your extended family is going to pump those ratings up.
Yeah, really.
I would just like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank the board. I am humbled and honored to be a member of this board. As a lifelong, member of this community, I understand the importance and the value of this position, and it's something that I do not take lightly. I look forward to, jumping in and getting started. And I also, wanted to say that I'm very excited to work with the board and with the staff, to improve Lower Paxton Township and the community. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. We will schedule Paul's swearing in as a member of the board for our meeting next Tuesday evening. And that will be the first item on the agenda. And Paul, will welcome you to join the board and in deliberations for a workshop agenda next week. But welcome aboard and congratulations. We now need to take action on a subsidy agreement between Lower Paxton Township Authority and the Lower Paxton Township with respect to General Obligation Bond Series 2020. We have discussed this at workshop, and Mr. Godshall, do you have anything to add to this, or board members, do you have any questions?
Not really.
If you'd like, are you okay with would you like me to add some color to
Unless
it?
something has changed in the last 2 weeks, which I do not believe it has.
Nope.
This, of course, is a refinancing. We are not borrowing new money. This is a refinancing, and the end result is that it is going to bring about considerable savings, primarily to the sewage authority, but also to the township. So anytime we can do a refinancing because of market conditions and save money, we're very much in favor of that. So with that, is there a motion on the subsidy agreement?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the action on resolution 2020 series of obligation of bonds as Mr. Gottschall has presented.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional board discussion?
Mr. Gottschall, do you remember the amount of savings off the top of your head?
Yes, it'll be approximately $279,000 for the authority through 2046, and also a one-time savings for the general fund in the amount of $290,000. And that also is in addition to what the general fund is already going to be saving in 2021 of another $290,000 through the new issue of monies prior to this in 2020. So considerable savings indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Robin. We now need to move to item 9C. Take action on Resolution 2025, amending and restating Resolution 2018-25, the right to know policy for municipal public records. And what change are we making by way of explanation, Mr. Gottschall?
Yes, sir, members of the board. Resolution 20-25 amends Resolution 18-25, which is the township's right to know policy. This adding Captain Mark Zerby as the township's open records officer for the police department. Currently, the township manager acts as open records officer with Leanne Urban as the communications manager acting as assistant open records officer. That's researching, collecting, and responding to requests for records within all township departments. As the police department deals with specific law enforcement records, often police reports, etc., this will provide greater efficiency and quicker response if the department has its own records officer in Captain Zerby.
Okay. Any questions, board members? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Resolution 2025, amending and restating Resolution 1825, the right to know policy for municipal public records, as outlined by Mr. Gottschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That takes us now to subdivision and land development. And the Planning Commission chairman has not overloaded us with work this month. Thank you, Fred. We have some improvement guarantees, however. We have 3. Any questions relative to the improvement guarantees? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the improvement guarantees?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the improvement guarantees.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That takes us to payment of bills from the Lower Paxton Township Authority and Lower Paxton Township. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority. I'm not going to read them all.
You're not going to. There's a rather long list. We'll incorporate all of them into the motion, correct?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And they're all on the agenda, public agenda, for
Yes.
anybody who wants to go through them, which we have.
Yep. All available on the website. Any other announcements from board members or the manager? Seeing none, our next board meeting will be a workshop meeting, as well as the swearing in of our new supervisor. That will be 1 week from tonight, Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.